Hello, welcome back to LTC Heroes Live by Experience Care. My name is Peter Murphy-Lewis. I'm your host. We're at LeadingAge Nebraska, and today I'm speaking with someone from LeadingAge National. She's the Vice President of Health Policy and Regulatory Affairs, Janine Finck-Boyle. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Peter. Really glad to be here. A little nervous, but I'm okay.
Janine, I've already heard great things about you. I heard great things from the President CEO, Kirsten. She goes, Janine knows her stuff. And then I just talked to my team, and they said they just went to your presentation, and you presented surveys and information and research. Tell me in a couple words what you tried to present today and why you came here.
Sure. So for nursing homes specifically, we are always looking at the fact that there's change. Guidance is changing, regulations are changing. There is this pressure for nursing homes to operate, to make sure they have quality care and quality of life. And so the presentation that I did today was to focus in on what's new and what's going on, and those nursing homes really need to be able to thrive and survive in the environment. We've been through 3 tough years of a pandemic where there was guidance and regulations coming out at a fast pace. It slowed down a little bit, so it's time to take a step back, do some education, refocus on the quality and care of quality of life, because you're not at that pandemic level. And so today I was here to focus in on the education, the resources and tools that we have at LeadingAge to help our members thrive and survive operationally, meet the regulations, not be cited, but then also help us elevate their voice so we can advocate for change. There is a movement underfoot for nursing homes with the National Academy study that came out last April, with the Moving Quality Forward Coalition to implement those action plans from the National Academy's report. We're looking at making sure that our members are giving us their experiences, their story, their outcomes, and their data in order to advocate to the administration and to our lawmakers on the Hill.
My team took screenshots of one specific study you did where you asked what were the biggest needs that your members had. I don't know if that is enough to refresh your memory, but what were the things that stood out from you in this most recent report or research that you all did?
So we know that what our members need are tools on the ground. They don't have time to read through a 600-page report. They don't have time to read through all of the full guidance when it comes from CMS on what they need to do for the intent, for the policies and procedures. And so what we try to do is we make sure we break it down into bits, whether it's a toolkit that has a checklist in it, that has a sample policy and procedure, that it has the ability to explain, give them the analysis of that rule, so then they can work in their organizations to make sure that they can meet it and not be cited. And so that's what we work with a team, the team that I work with. We try to put together those resources and tools. We also do what we know is like quick paths and quick casts. And so whether it's something that's on paper that they can download and edit, or it's a podcast like this that we can make sure that they can then listen to even in the car while they're going to and from work.
Tell me what is one of the most popular tools, if you have access to that information that you know your members are accessing, and what's a new tool that's come out in the last 6 months or a year that might not be popular but you know is going to be amazing once people first test it?
Sure. So I think that our staffing competency toolkit, we have 25 pieces to it, and with that particular toolkit, it focuses on the areas of quality and care of quality of life for a resident. So whether it's something that has to do with dialysis, or if it has to do with hospice care, those are the knowledge, the skills, and the assessment that a team member has to help a staff member be competent in. And so those 25 toolkits are a world, like it's a book of a world of knowledge that they can use at their fingertips. So whether they do a actual formal education class, or they'll do what you know is on-the-job training, what that means on the nursing unit or working with on the bedside with the resident, you can use these toolkits. You can evaluate, you can train, and you can evaluate. You can help then make sure that the quality of care and the quality of life for the resident is definitely what it needs to be for the outcome for the life of the resident, which is the most important. What I would say in the long range, we've have a pretty good set of tools, but the other side of what we've been working on is advocacy. And what's important, and I wouldn't say it's more of a tool, but it's an action item, and it's what's called an action alert. And when I did my presentation today, I tried to weave in the advocacy role that members have. And that is using everything that we give them to elevate their voice. And so if there is a tool to help maintain a particular competency, do we really need that competency? Let's question that. Is that a regulation? Is it burdensome? So let's go back and let's think about, should we then listen to what data do you have? What outcomes to maybe not have that regulation? And then do we then elevate your voice to the administration or to Congress? And so today we talked about what's known as the 3-day stay, which is part of a waiver that's going to go away as of May 11th and be eliminated. And I asked the members that are there, how did the waiver work for you for the pandemic? And so I was able to get feedback, which we will then use to advocate to make that waiver permanent or completely eliminate it. The other side is a staffing mandate. It's not going to not happen. We know that nursing homes are going to get a staffing mandate sometime this year. It comes right from the White House. With that, we know that we have to help our members succeed in meeting that mandate. But in the meantime, there's indicators that we would want to be put in place to make sure that our members can meet the mandate so they can provide quality of care and quality of life.
Are nonprofits at an advantage or disadvantage when it comes for the staffing?
It's a really good question. I would say that our members are mission driven. They looking for the fact that everything that comes into that organization, or what goes down to the bottom line, goes back into the organization. That means it goes back into the care of the residents. It goes back into the pay of the staff. Now, everyone deserves a living wage. And if the money that's coming in for Medicaid payments or managed care payments don't meet the cost of care, then the nursing homes need to make some decisions. But we know that our members that are mission driven make the decisions for not to go into one side, it goes back into the organization. And so I would say that, yes, I believe that our members at not-for-profits are in a better situation to meet a mandate.
I felt the same way, and I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but you confirmed it. Last night, I was at a social event, and I was speaking to an administrator, and I said, how did you afford to bring 10 people out of your staff of 20 to the LeadingAge convention? And she said, my only number one objective is to not lose money. It doesn't mean I have to make money. Everything goes back into my staff and into my residents.
Right. And what I could say to make it full circle for you is what I started talking about, is that it's education. So members that are coming here, they're being educated. So yes, fine, they need CEUs for their license and check that box. But they're here learning and collaborating with each other, as well as finding new innovative practices to go back to enhance their quality of care and the quality of life for the residents. But they're also resetting themselves, right? They're energizing themselves by working together and meeting each other. Haven't seen each other maybe in a year. Some people might have not come during parts of the pandemic. They're learning about wellness and mental health. The keynote speaker this morning, really focused in about workforce and kind of helping your staff not just thrive, and as we say, survive, not just survive, but thrive, but reinvigorating yourself, because this is not an easy, I don't like to use the word industry. It's not an easy organization as a whole to work through. It's difficult. It's taxing. It's emotionally difficult. And I say that as coming from being a nursing home administrator. You're not in there to save people. You're there at their most vulnerable, frail part of their life. You're there to help them have quality of life before the end of their life.
I was going to specifically go into exploring your path of how you got into your current role. And before you were helping with advocacy at the national level, you were a caregiver. Tell me about your background. Where did you work? How long were you a frontline caregiver?
Sure. So I am a nursing home administrator. I'm a licensed nursing home administrator. I have been for, it's over 20 years now. I think it's actually almost 25 with my first license I ever received. And I actually went in, I come from a very strange background to get to it, but basically I was working in clinical IT. From there, I went and worked in different healthcare organizations in a consulting group. I found myself in a very large continuing care retirement community in the Boston area, worked on a project with the administrator in training, and saw that that's what I wanted to do. So it did not come out of my undergraduate degree knowing that this is what I wanted to do. Although I will tell you this, and it's really important, my grandmother, who had the healthiest life until the last year of her life, did not want to go to a nursing home, and we knew she needed 24-hour care. And that must have stuck in the back of my head because I didn't understand why. But when I worked on a project at this large CCRC, I figured out I wanted to be a nursing home administrator. I went to graduate school, I got my license, and then I started working in organizations in Washington, D.C. And I've worked for both sides. I've worked for profit and not for profit. I've been the CEO of a long-term acute care hospital and a nursing home. I've also had hospice executive director experience also. It's not easy. It's not easy when you're working with staff that, this might be their second job and they don't have the care for the organization. It's difficult when you're trying to figure out what bills that need to be paid in order to make sure that you get the supplies that come in. It's not easy when a resident that comes to your office every day to talk to you doesn't come anymore because they've passed on. However, it is an amazing experience being an administrator, but it's tough and you get burnt out. And my last organization closed because of a real estate transaction, no other reason, but the board felt that it was time to move on from residential care, bricks and mortar, but continue home and community-based services. And I thought that it was time for me to also make a decision. I had 2 smaller children at the time, and I thought, well, maybe I could be a little bit more accessible than having to leave my son's baseball game on a Saturday afternoon because I had to run over to the building, or being woken up in the middle of the night because there was an emergency. Not that I didn't love it all, and not that things, happen, but I thought that was the best thing to do, and that's how I ended up at LeadingAge.
Tell me about your work at LeadingAge. What's your favorite part of the job? And feel free to be as mundane as I like Tuesday mornings where we go through legislation, or I actually like knocking on the doors or giving tours of DC.
Yeah, so I will tell you that my favorite part is coming to our state partners, is presenting, is mingling and collaborating, going to the social tonight. There's some states that I've been to over and over again. There's some states that I haven't been to yet. But that is my favorite part. It's planning the PowerPoint, the presentation, and then getting up and giving it and spending time with people outside of the office. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the team that I work with, and I know I shouldn't be using the word love, but they're passionate, they're compassionate, they're there for a reason. They come from all different backgrounds, but everyone has the focus of aging services and helping elders really make the best part of their continuum of care and the end of their life. And so the mundane part is I like our what you would know as a stand-up meeting, but we have them as our our team meetings. I love those meetings. I think that they're sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes they're 60 minutes. But I think that that's important. Our team, our policy team, our advocacy team, our congressional affairs team is one larger team, and we meet the continuum. So we work on home and community-based services, we work on housing, we work on nursing homes and life plan communities. But it's learning about what's going on in the other spaces that I enjoy during those team meetings.
I agree with you, but the best part of this job is coming and meeting people in person. You'll know one of the first people I ever interviewed at a convention was Deke Cato.
Yes, I know Deke.
And I read his book and interviewed him, and then he actually paid for LTC Heroes to go to LeadingAge, Georgia. Financed everything.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Welcome.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
I know that the members appreciate it because my team already told you has had such a big impact. Keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully see you next year.
Yes, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
We also